Hook. The sound of fabric ripping cut through the dive bar like a gunshot. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then someone saw it. Black ink sprawled across her scarred shoulder blade, crude and military sharp, a dagger pointing down, and beneath it, the number 66. Not a tattoo parlor design. Not art. A tally. The biker who'd grabbed her shirt stumbled back, his grin collapsing. His buddy, still laughing a moment ago, went pale. The woman they'd cornered, the one they thought was easy prey, didn't flinch. She just stood there, prosthetic leg planted firm, eyes colder than steel, and said nothing. Outside, engines rumbled. Not motorcycles. Something heavier. Military grade. By the time the door exploded open and 8 men in black tactical gear stormed in with zero hesitation, the bikers realized they'd just put their hands on a ghost the government had already buried. Now, if you want to know how a quiet nurse with a limp became the most dangerous person in that room, stay with me till the end. Like this story, drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. Let's go. The Jefferson Memorial Hospital sat on the eastern edge of Crescent Bay like a tired monument to good intentions and crumbling infrastructure. 6th floor, trauma wing, 11:47 p.m. Ava Morales peeled off her nitrile gloves and dropped them in the biohazard bin without looking. 14-hour shift. 3 codes. 1 death she couldn't stop. The usual. She limped toward the locker room, her prosthetic leg clicking faintly against the linoleum. A younger nurse, Marcus, new hire, still bright-eyed, called after her. "Ava, you good? You've been on since 9 this morning. I'm fine. You always say that, because it's always true." Marcus didn't push. Nobody did. Ava had that effect. Quiet, competent, untouchable. She changed into street clothes, pulled her hair into a low ponytail, and walked out into the night without saying goodbye to anyone. She never did. Crescent Bay after midnight was a different animal. The tourist strips went dark. The boardwalk cafes locked up. What remained were the diesel depots, the all-night diners, and the places people went when they didn't want to be found. Ava knew them all. She'd been one of those people for 3 years. Her car, a beat-up Honda with a cracked windshield, sat alone in the staff lot. She slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and let it idle for a moment. Her leg ached. Phantom pain, the doctors called it. She called it a reminder. The drive home took 20 minutes through empty streets. She lived in a converted warehouse near the shipyards. Cheap rent, no neighbors, no questions. But tonight, she didn't go home. Tonight, she pulled into the gravel lot of a bar called the Iron Compass, a biker joint that served cold beer and didn't care who you used to be. She needed a drink. 1, then sleep. The bar was loud, classic rock bleeding from blown speakers, the smell of fried food and motor oil, laughter that came in bursts. Ava walked in, head down, and slid onto a stool at the far end of the counter. The bartender, a woman in her 50s with forearms like steel cables, nodded once. "Whiskey. Neat. Rough night?" "Every night." The bartender poured without commentary and moved on. Ava wrapped her hands around the glass and stared into the amber liquid like it held answers. It didn't. It never did. She was halfway through the drink when she felt eyes on her. Not curious. Predatory. 3 men at a corner table, leather vests, patched logos, cigarettes and beer bottles. One of them, tall, shaved head, neck tattoos crawling up to his jawline, stood and walked toward her. His boots thudded heavy on the wooden floor. "Hey, sweetheart." Ava didn't look up. "I'm talking to you." "I know. You always this friendly?" "Only when I'm trying to be left alone." He laughed, too loud, too forced. His buddies joined in from across the room. "You hear that? She wants to be left alone, in a biker bar. That's funny." Ava set her glass down slowly. "I just want to finish my drink." "Yeah? Maybe I want to buy you another one." "I'm good." "I don't think you are." She turned her head just enough to meet his eyes. Hers were flat, empty, the kind of gaze that should have sent a warning. It didn't. He leaned closer, one hand landing on the bar beside her, boxing her in. "Come on, don't be like that. We're just being friendly." "No, you're not." His grin widened. "What are you going to do about it?" Ava didn't answer. She picked up her glass, finished the whiskey in one swallow, and stood. Her prosthetic leg made a faint mechanical click as she shifted her weight. The man noticed. His grin turned into something uglier. Oh, I get it. You're one of those damaged goods. The bar went quieter. Not silent, just a degree cooler, like everyone sensed the air pressure dropping before a storm. Move, Ava said. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Or what? She didn't repeat herself. She stepped forward, and for half a second he flinched, just a flicker, a primitive instinct recognizing danger. But his pride overrode it. He didn't move. Instead, he reached out and grabbed her wrist. I said move. Ava's expression didn't change. Let go. Make me. His buddies were up now, drifting over like sharks circling blood. One of them, shorter, stockier, grinning like this was the best entertainment he'd had all week, whistled low. Looks like she needs a lesson in manners. The bartender called out, Hey, take it outside or take it nowhere. Nobody listened. The man holding Ava's wrist tightened his grip. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? I said no. Yeah, I heard you. He yanked her forward just enough to throw her off balance. Her prosthetic leg caught on the stool, and she stumbled. His buddies laughed. One of them, ginger-beard, bloodshot eyes, reached out and grabbed the collar of her shirt. That's when it tore. Fabric ripped cleanly down the shoulder seam, exposing the upper half of her back. The room froze. Not because of her skin, because of what was on it. Black ink. Military sharp lines, a dagger pointing down, blade etched in brutal detail. Beneath it, a number, 66. No flourish, no decoration, just a mark. The ginger-bearded man let go like he'd touched a live wire. The tall one released her wrist and took a step back. The laughter died. Ava straightened slowly, adjusting the torn fabric without urgency, her face as calm as it had been 30 seconds ago. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The tall man opened his mouth, then closed it. His buddies exchanged looks, confusion, fear, something else they couldn't name. What the hell is that? The stocky one muttered. Shut up, the tall one hissed. I'm serious. What is... I said shut up. But the damage was done. Everyone in the bar had seen it. The pool players near the back wall had stopped mid-shot. The couple in the booth by the jukebox were staring. Even the bartender had gone still, cloth frozen in her hand mid-wipe. Ava turned toward the door. The tall biker moved to block her path. Hold on. You don't just walk away after... After what? Ava's voice was flat, empty of inflection. After you grabbed me? After you tore my shirt? What exactly do you think happens next? I think you owe us an explanation. I don't owe you anything. That mark is none of your business. The hell it's not. You walk in here with that on you. You're making it everyone's business. Ava took one step closer. The tall man was 6 inches taller and 80 pounds heavier, but he took a step back. You want to know what it means? Yeah, I do. It means you made a mistake. His face darkened. You threatening me? No, I'm telling you what's already happened. The stocky one laughed, nervous, brittle. She's bluffing. She's got one leg and a god complex. Let's just... Then from outside, engines. Not bikes. Not the rumble of Harleys or the whine of sport bikes. Something deeper. Diesel. Heavy transport. Multiple vehicles. The front door rattled in its frame. Then it slammed open. 8 men walked in. No uniforms. Black tactical pants, dark jackets, boots that hit the floor with synchronized precision. No insignia. No badges. No expression. They moved like a single organism, fanning out across the room with the kind of control that only came from years of operating in places where hesitation meant death. The lead man, mid-40s, graying at the temples, scar running from his left eyebrow to his cheekbone, scanned the room once, then locked eyes on Ava. His face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds: shock, recognition, disbelief. Everyone, hands off her, now! The bikers didn't move. Couldn't. They were frozen in place, prey animals caught in headlights. The scarred man took 3 steps forward and stopped 2 feet from the tall biker. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. I said hands off. I won't repeat it. The biker's mouth worked, but no sound came out. His buddies were backing toward the wall, hands raised in surrender, eyes darting between the tactical team and Ava like they couldn't reconcile the two. One of the 8, a younger man, Latino, coiled energy barely contained, moved to Ava's side. You okay? She nodded once. Anyone touch you? They tried. The scarred man's jaw tightened. He turned his head slightly, speaking into a mic clipped to his collar. Control, we have visual confirmation, subject secure, situation contained. A crackling response came through his earpiece, inaudible to everyone else. He listened, nodded once, then turned back to the room. This establishment is now under federal jurisdiction. Everyone stays where they are. No phones, no movement, no exceptions. The bartender, still behind the counter, raised both hands. Look, I don't know what this is, but this doesn't concern you, the scarred man said without looking at her. Keep your head down and you'll be fine. Outside, more engines. Heavier. The sound of boots hitting pavement, radios crackling, rotors in the distance. Helicopters still far out but closing fast. Red and blue lights painted the walls through the grimy windows. The ginger-bearded biker finally found his voice. Who the hell are you people? No one answered. The scarred man's eyes never left Ava. There was something in his expression, recognition, disbelief. Something raw and unguarded that he couldn't quite hide. We thought you were dead. Ava met his gaze. I was. Then what are you doing here? Living. That's not living, that's hiding. Same thing. He shook his head slowly, like he was trying to process something that didn't fit the laws of physics. You can't just disappear, not after… I did. We looked for you. I know. For 2 years. I know. And you just… what? Became a nurse? I was always a medic. You were a lot more than that. The tall biker, emboldened by confusion, took a half step forward. What the hell is going on? Who is she? The scarred man finally looked at him. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You grabbed her. I didn't… You grabbed her. You tore her shirt. You put your hands on someone you don't understand. I don't even know who she is. That's the problem. One of the tactical team, older, broader, stone-faced, stepped forward and placed a hand on the tall biker's shoulder. Not rough, not gentle, just absolute. You're coming with us. The hell I am. You assaulted a federal asset. Federal… what? You heard me? The ginger-bearded man backed toward the door. We didn't know. Doesn't matter. The third biker, silent until now, skinny, twitchy, bolted. He made it 3 steps before one of the tactical team moved, fast, efficient, no wasted motion, and put him face down on the floor with one hand twisted behind his back. The whole thing took 2 seconds. No one else moved. The scarred man turned back to Ava. We need to talk. No. This isn't optional. I'm not going back. I'm not asking you to. Then what do you want? He hesitated. For the first time since walking in, he looked uncertain. I want to know if you're really here, or if I'm looking at a ghost. Ava's expression didn't change. I'm here. Why Crescent Bay? No one looks for dead people in beach towns. We did. Not hard enough. He exhaled slowly, something between frustration and relief. You know what happens now, right? They get arrested, I walk away, same as always. It's not the same, they saw the mark. Ava glanced down at her torn shirt, then back at him. So? So that mark means something. It meant something 3 years ago, and it still does now. Not to me. Then why didn't you cover it up? She didn't answer. The scarred man leaned in slightly, voice dropping. You can't just turn it off, Ava. You can't just pretend you're someone else. I'm not pretending. I am someone else. No, you're not. Behind them, the tactical team was moving with mechanical efficiency. Zip ties appeared. The bikers were searched, patted down, IDs collected. The stocky one started yelling about rights and lawyers. One of the team, a woman, late 30s, buzz cut, no patience, put him against the wall with 2 fingers on his pressure point. He went quiet immediately. The bartender was being interviewed by another operator. She kept glancing at Ava, then away, like she was afraid to look too long. The pool players were being separated, phones confiscated, statements prepared. The entire bar had transformed from a dive into a crime scene in under 3 minutes. Outside, the rotors were closer now. 2, maybe 3 helicopters circling overhead, searchlights cutting through the dark like surgical blades. A command vehicle had pulled up, black and unmarked, antenna array bristling from the roof. More personnel were pouring out, setting up a perimeter, cordoning off the block. Ava turned toward the door. The scarred man stepped in front of her. Where are you going? Home. You can't leave. Watch me. Ava. She stopped, 1 foot over the threshold, and looked back at him. Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of something final. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for you to show up. I didn't ask to be found. You think I wanted this? I think you made a phone call the second someone recognized me. He didn't deny it. We had to know. Now you do. I'm alive. I'm done. Let it go. It's not that simple. It is for me. You know it's not. The moment that Mark was exposed, everything changed. You know the protocols. You wrote half of them. I wrote them for soldiers, not for civilians. You're not a civilian. I am now. The law doesn't see it that way. Then the law is wrong. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. There are people who still think you're a threat. People who want confirmation that you're really out. People who won't believe it until they see you in person. That sounds like their problem. It becomes yours the second they decide you're a liability. Ava's eyes narrowed. Is that a threat? It's a warning. From who? From me. From people who still care whether you live or die. I don't need protection. You needed it tonight. I had it under control. You had 3 bikers tearing your shirt off, and I would have handled it. By doing what? Breaking their arms? Putting them in the hospital? That's not handling it, Ava. That's exposing yourself. You do that, you're done. Every agency with a file on you comes knocking. Every enemy you made comes looking. You disappear again, except this time, they know you're alive. They know you're vulnerable. Ava looked at him for a long moment. You still don't get it. Get what? I didn't leave because I was scared. I left because I was done. There's a difference. Not to the people hunting you. Let them hunt. They will. And when they find you, they won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do. The scarred man's jaw worked. Commander Reyes is flying in tonight. He wants to see you. Ava's expression flickered. Just for a second, something unguarded. Reyes can go to hell. He's the only reason you're still off the books. I didn't ask for that either. You didn't have to. He did it anyway. Why? Because he believes you earned it. I didn't earn anything. I survived. That's all. That's not all, and you know it. Ava turned away. Tell Reyes I said thank you, and tell him to stop looking for me. He's not looking. He's just keeping track. Same thing. It's not, and you know that too. One of the tactical operators approached, the woman with the buzz cut. Sir, perimeter's secure. Local PD is asking questions. The scarred man nodded. Tell them it's a federal matter. No details. Standard blackout. Copy. She walked away. The scarred man turned back to Ava, but she was already moving toward the door again. He caught her arm, gently, carefully. You walk out that door, you're on your own. No coverage. No backup. No extraction if things go sideways. That's how I've been living for 3 years. 3 years ago, no one knew where you were. And now? Now someone saw that mark. Someone in this room might have taken a picture before we locked it down. Someone might have made a call before we jammed the signals. You think you're safe just because you kept your head down? That mark is a target, Ava. It always has been. She pulled her arm free. Then I'll deal with it. How? The same way I dealt with everything else. Alone? Yes. That's not strength. That's stubbornness. Call it whatever you want. She walked out into the night. The air was cold, sharp with salt and diesel. The command vehicle hummed nearby, generators running, radios chattering. Personnel moved in organized chaos, setting up lights, taking photos, processing evidence. No one stopped her. The scarred man stood in the doorway, watching her disappear into the dark. One of his team approached, the young Latino operator. Do we follow her? He shook his head. No. Sir, I said no. She's made her choice. What if she's compromised? She's not. How do you know? Because if she was, she'd already be dead. The operator frowned. What do we do about the witnesses? Standard protocol, NDAs, threat assessment. Anyone who saw the mark gets flagged for monitoring. And the bikers? Federal charges: assault, harassment, interference with a protected asset. They don't even know what they interfered with. They will, eventually. The operator hesitated. Sir, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Who is she? Really? The scarred man was quiet for a long moment. Someone we should have left alone. Then why didn't we? Because we're not good at letting go. Ava drove through the empty streets with the radio off and the windows down. The cold air helped. Her mind was racing, cataloging threats, calculating probabilities, running contingencies she'd promised herself she'd never need again. The mark. She'd known it was a risk. She'd known someone might see it someday. But 3 years had passed without incident, and she'd allowed herself to believe, foolishly, naively, that maybe the past really could stay buried. Now it was exposed. And exposure meant questions. Questions meant attention. Attention meant danger. She pulled into the warehouse lot and killed the engine. The building was dark, industrial, anonymous. Exactly what she needed. She climbed the exterior stairs to the 3rd floor, unlocked the heavy steel door, and stepped inside. The space was Spartan. A bed, a table, a kitchenette, a single chair by the window overlooking the shipyard. No photos. No personal items. Nothing that would tell a stranger who lived here. She pulled off the torn shirt and tossed it in the trash. The mark stared back at her from the bathroom mirror. Black ink, sharp lines, a number that used to mean something. 66. 66 lives saved under fire. 66 extractions from hot zones. 66 times she'd walked into hell and dragged someone back out. She used to wear it with pride. Now it was just a reminder of everything she'd lost earning it. She turned away from the mirror, pulled on a clean shirt, and sat by the window. The shipyard was quiet. A single crane stood silhouetted against the orange glow of the city. Beyond it, the ocean stretched dark and infinite. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it for 10 seconds, then answered without speaking. Ava. A voice she recognized. Deep, steady, commanding. Commander Reyes. I told your man I'm done. I know what you told him. Then why are you calling? Because I need you to understand something. I understand plenty. You understand tactics. You understand survival, but you don't understand politics. I don't care about politics. You should, because politics is what's keeping you alive right now. Ava's grip tightened on the phone. What does that mean? It means there are people in Washington who want confirmation that you're really out. People who think you're a loose end. People who believe loose ends should be cut. Let them try. That's not bravado talking, is it? No. Reyes was quiet for a moment. I can buy you time, but I can't buy you forever. Eventually, someone's going to push for a debrief. They're going to want to know what you know, where you've been, who you've talked to. And if you don't cooperate, I won't. Then they'll come for you anyway, not to arrest you, to eliminate the risk. You'd let them do that? I'd fight it, but I can't promise I'd win. Ava leaned back in the chair. What do you want, Reyes? I want you to come in, voluntarily, one debrief, clean slate, then you walk away and no one bothers you again. You can't guarantee that. No, but I can make it more likely. And if I refuse? Then you keep running, and eventually someone catches up. She looked out the window. The crane was still. The ocean was still. Everything was still except her heartbeat. I'll think about it. That's all I'm asking. No, you're asking for a lot more than that. Maybe, but I'm asking because I don't want to lose you twice. The line went dead. Ava set the phone down and closed her eyes. 3 years. 3 years of quiet. 3 years of anonymity. 3 years of pretending the past didn't exist. And now it was all unraveling because some drunk idiot tore her shirt in a dive bar. She opened her eyes. Outside, headlights swept across the shipyard. A black SUV, moving slowly, deliberately. It stopped at the base of her building. The engine idled. No one got out. Ava stood and moved away from the window. She went to the closet, pulled aside a false panel, and retrieved a black duffel bag. Inside, cash, fake IDs, a sat phone, and a Glock 19 with 3 magazines. The headlights stayed on for 2 more minutes. Then the SUV pulled away. Ava packed the bag and set it by the door. She didn't know if she'd need it tonight, tomorrow, or ever, but it was ready. That was the only thing she could control. She sat back down by the window and waited for dawn. Sleep wasn't an option, not anymore. Because the moment that mark was exposed, the clock started ticking, and Ava Morales, quiet nurse, anonymous civilian, dead woman walking, had just become a target again. Dawn broke gray and cold over Crescent Bay, the kind of morning that felt like an apology the city didn't mean. Ava hadn't slept. She'd watched the street below, counted the vehicles that passed, 14 in 6 hours, 3 of them circling twice, and made a list in her head of everything she'd need if she had to disappear again. The hospital called at 6:15. She let it ring 4 times before answering. Morales. Ava, it's Diane. The charge nurse, voice tight with stress. We need you in early. Multi-vehicle pileup on the coastal highway. All hands. I worked a double yesterday. I know, but we're drowning. Please. Ava looked at the duffel bag by the door, then at the phone. The smart play was to say no. The smart play was to grab the bag and drive until Crescent Bay was a memory, but the smart play had never been her strong suit. I'll be there in 20. She hung up, left the bag where it was, and walked out. The hospital was chaos when she arrived. Ambulances lined the emergency bay, paramedics shouting over each other, gurneys jamming the hallways. Ava clocked in, pulled on fresh scrubs, and fell into the rhythm without thinking. Triage chug. Assess, stabilize, move. A teenager with a fractured skull. An elderly man with internal bleeding. A woman pinned under the steering column for 40 minutes, bones shattered, organs failing. Ava worked through them all with the same mechanical precision, her hand steady, her voice calm, her mind a million miles away. Marcus found her 3 hours in, blood on his scrubs, exhaustion in his eyes. Ava, Trauma 2 needs you. GSW, unstable. She didn't ask questions. She just moved. Trauma 2 was a war zone. Blood on the floor, monitors screaming, a surgical team trying to plug holes faster than they opened. The patient was a man in his 30s, gang tattoos, bullet wound to the abdomen. He was dying, and he knew it. Ava stepped in, assessed the damage in 2 seconds, and started barking orders. Clamp that bleeder. Get me 2 units ONEG. Where's the anesthesiologist? Stuck in surgery. Then we do this awake. Hold him down. The man's eyes found hers, wide, terrified, pleading. Am I gonna die? Not if you shut up and let me work. She didn't sugarcoat it. She never did. She opened him up, found the torn artery, and clamped it before his pressure bottomed out. The monitors stabilized. The room exhaled. Diane appeared in the doorway. Nice save. He's not saved yet. Get him to OR. They're prepping now. Ava stripped off her gloves and walked out without another word. She made it to the supply closet before her hands started shaking. Not fear, not adrenaline, just the weight of too many hours, too many saves, too many ghosts she couldn't outrun. She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. A voice behind her. You look like hell. She turned. Dr. Garrett Hale, attending physician, mid-50s, gray stubble, and perpetually tired eyes. He'd been at Jefferson longer than anyone could remember, and he had a habit of appearing when people needed him least. I'm fine. You're running on fumes. I'm always running on fumes. That's not something to be proud of. Ava pushed past him. I've got patience. You've got limits. You should acknowledge them. I will. When I hit them. She walked away before he could argue. The rest of the shift blurred, more traumas, more saves, more strangers whose lives depended on her staying sharp. By the time her relief showed up at 4 p.m., she'd been on for 18 hours straight. Diane caught her at the lockers. Ava, thank you. Seriously, we would have lost 3 today without you. Just doing my job. You do more than your job. You always have. Ava didn't respond. She changed, grabbed her bag, and walked out into the fading daylight. Her car was where she'd left it, untouched. She climbed in, started the engine, and sat there for a full minute, staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. We need to meet. Tonight. Pier 9, 8 p.m. Come alone. No signature, no context, just coordinates and a deadline. Ava deleted the message and drove home. The warehouse was quiet when she arrived. She checked the door. No signs of tampering. The stairwell? Empty. The windows? Intact. Everything looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. She stepped inside and locked the door behind her. The duffel bag was still by the entrance, exactly where she'd left it. She picked it up, unzipped it, and checked the contents. Cash, IDs, phone, weapon, all accounted for. She set it down and moved to the window. The shipyard stretched out below, gray and industrial and familiar. A few workers moved between the cranes, their figures small against the massive machinery. Nothing unusual. Her phone buzzed again. Same number. Don't ignore this. Lives depend on it. Ava stared at the screen. She didn't recognize the number, but she recognized the phrasing. Military. Operational. Someone who knew how to push buttons. She typed back. Who is this? The reply came instantly. Someone who knows what 66 means. Her jaw tightened. She typed again. Meet somewhere public. Daytime. No. Pier 9, 8 p.m. Non-negotiable. She put the phone down and paced the room. Pier 9 was industrial, isolated, perfect for an ambush. It was also perfect for a conversation no one wanted overheard. The question was which one this would be. She checked the clock. 5:30. 2.5 hours. She opened the duffel bag again, pulled out the Glock, and checked the magazine. 15 rounds. She chambered one, safetied it, and slid it into the waistband of her jeans. Then she grabbed a jacket, zipped it up, and walked out. Pier 9 sat at the southern edge of the industrial district, a rusted skeleton of corrugated steel and rotting wood jutting into the bay. The sun had set by the time Ava arrived, leaving only the orange glow of sodium lights and the distant shimmer of the city across the water. She parked a block away and walked the rest. Her prosthetic leg clicked faintly with each step, a metronome counting down to something she couldn't predict. She kept her right hand near her waistband, fingers brushing the grip of the Glock. The pier was empty, or looked empty. Ava had been in enough ambushes to know the difference. She stopped 20 feet from the entrance and waited. A figure emerged from the shadows near the far end, tall, lean, moving with the kind of control that came from decades of practice. As he stepped into the light, Ava recognized him immediately. Commander Victor Reyes. He was older than the last time she'd seen him, more gray, more lines, more weight in his shoulders. But his eyes were the same, sharp, calculating, impossible to lie to. You came, he said. You didn't give me much choice. You always have a choice, Morales. That's the problem. She didn't move closer. What do you want? To talk. We talked last night. No, I talked. You deflected. Same thing. Reyes sighed and walked toward her, hands visible, movement slow and deliberate. I'm not here to drag you back. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here because you're in danger, and I'm one of the few people who can help. I don't need help. Yes, you do. You just don't want to admit it. Ava's hand stayed near the gun. Say what you came to say. Reyes stopped 10 feet away. There's a file classified, eyes only. It contains every operation you were part of, every extraction, every kill, every piece of intel you handled. It's been buried for 3 years. As of yesterday, someone requested it. Ava's stomach dropped. Who? I don't know yet. The request came through back channels. But whoever it is, they have enough clearance to make it happen. And once that file is opened, your location becomes public knowledge. Not to the world, just to the people who matter, the people who want you dead. I've been dead for 3 years. Why start caring now? Because you were exposed. That mark, it's not just a tattoo, Ava. It's a signature. Every operator who worked with you knows it. Every enemy who survived you knows it. The second someone saw it and made a connection, the clock started ticking. Ava turned away, looking out at the water. You think I don't know that? I think you're pretending it doesn't matter. It doesn't. Then why are you carrying? She froze. Reyes smiled grimly. I've known you for 15 years, Morales. I know when you're armed. I also know you don't carry unless you think you'll need it. Ava faced him again. What do you want from me? I want you to come in, voluntarily, before they come for you. And then what? Then we debrief you, update your file, and put you back in the system as inactive but accounted for. You get protection. They get closure. Everyone wins. Except me. Why? Because the second I walk into one of your facilities, I stop being a person and start being an asset again. And assets don't get to decide when they're done. Reyes was quiet for a moment. You're right, they don't. But you're not an asset anymore, Ava. You're a liability. And liabilities get eliminated. Then eliminate me. I'm not going to do that. Why not? It'd solve your problem. Because you're worth more alive. Ava laughed, short, bitter. To who? To the people you trained, to the operators who are still out there because you pulled them out of hellholes they shouldn't have survived. To me. She met his eyes. That's not a reason. It's the only reason that matters. A sound, faint, mechanical, echoed across the water. Ava's head snapped toward it. Reyes heard it too. He turned, scanning the far side of the pier. We're not alone, Ava said quietly. No, we're not. Two figures stepped into the light at the opposite end of the pier. They moved in sync, tactical formation, hands near their waistbands. Ava clocked them immediately. Professionals, not thugs. Military or private security. Reyes didn't move. You need to go, now. Who are they? People who don't want you coming in voluntarily. Then what do they want? Confirmation that you're no longer a threat. Ava's hand closed around the Glock. And how do they confirm that? By making sure you don't walk away. The two figures split, one moving left, one moving right, boxing them in. Ava's mind raced through options. Cover was minimal, exits were limited, and she had no idea how many more were waiting in the dark. Reyes spoke without looking at her. There's a boat at the south dock. Keys are in the ignition. Go. What about you? I'll buy you time. That's a death sentence. It's a choice. Same as yours. Ava hesitated. The figures were closing. 30 yards, 25, 20. Reyes stepped forward, putting himself between them and Ava. Go, he said again. That's an order. I don't take orders anymore. Then do it because you're smarter than this. She backed toward the south dock, eyes locked on the figures. They stopped advancing, watching, waiting. One of them raised a hand to his ear, checking in with someone, getting instructions. Ava turned and ran. Her prosthetic leg hammered against the wooden planks, each impact sending shocks up her spine. Behind her, voices shouted. Then gunfire, sharp, controlled bursts. She didn't look back. The boat was a small fishing rig, old and weathered but functional. She jumped in, turned the key, and the engine coughed to life. She slammed the throttle forward, and the boat lurched away from the dock. More gunfire. Bullets punched into the water around her, kicking up spray. She kept the throttle pinned, weaving between moored ships, using them as cover. The pier fell away behind her, swallowed by the dark. She didn't slow down until the lights of Crescent Bay were distant pinpricks, and the ocean stretched black and infinite in every direction. Then she cut the engine and let the boat drift. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, expecting another threat, another demand. It was a voice message from Reyes. She played it. His voice was strained, breathing, labored. Morales, if you're hearing this, you got out. Good. Listen carefully. The people who just tried to kill you aren't government. They're private contractors. Someone paid them to tie up loose ends, and you're at the top of the list. I don't know who hired them yet, but I'll find out. In the meantime, stay off the grid. Don't go back to your apartment. Don't go to the hospital. Don't contact anyone you know. They'll be watching. A pause. Heavy breathing. There's something else. The file I mentioned, it wasn't just requested. It was accessed. Someone read it. Someone knows everything. Your missions, your contacts, your methods. They know how you think, which means they know how to find you. Another pause, longer this time. I'm sorry, Ava. I thought I could protect you. I was wrong. You're on your own now. But you've been on your own before. You'll figure it out. You always do. The message ended. Ava stared at the phone, then hurled it into the ocean. She watched it sink, a tiny light disappearing into the black, and felt the weight of 3 years of hiding collapse into a single, unavoidable truth. She wasn't safe. She'd never been safe. And now, someone with resources, intelligence, and a kill team was hunting her. She started the engine and turned the boat north, away from Crescent Bay, away from everything she'd built. The horizon was empty, the stars cold and indifferent. But somewhere out there, someone was watching. Someone who knew her face, her name, her past, someone who wanted her dead. And Ava Morales, quiet nurse, anonymous civilian, dead woman walking, was about to remind them why she'd earned that mark in the first place. She just had to survive long enough to do it. The boat cut through the dark water, engine growling, wake churning white behind her. Ava kept the throttle steady, scanning the horizon for lights, for movement, for anything that didn't belong. The ocean was vast and empty, but that didn't mean she was alone. An hour passed. Then two. The cold seeped into her bones, salt spray stinging her face. Her prosthetic leg ached from the run, phantom pain mixing with real exhaustion. She ignored it. Pain was just information. Information could be managed. A light appeared ahead, distant, flickering. Too small for a ship, too isolated for a buoy. Ava adjusted course, moving toward it with caution. As she got closer, shapes emerged from the dark. A small island, rocky and barren, with a single structure perched near the shore. A lighthouse long abandoned, its beacon dark. She cut the engine and let the boat drift the last 100 yards, listening. No voices, no engines, just waves and wind. She tied off at a crumbling dock and climbed out, gun drawn. The island was silent, lifeless. She moved toward the lighthouse, checking angles, clearing corners, every instinct screaming that this was a trap. The door was unlocked. She pushed it open and stepped inside. The interior was gutted, broken glass, rusted equipment, graffiti on the walls. But in the center of the room, someone had left something recent, a black duffel bag, identical to the one she'd left in her apartment. Ava approached it slowly, weapon raised. She kicked it. Nothing. She knelt and unzipped it. Inside, a sat phone, a stack of cash, a set of credentials with her face and a name she didn't recognize, and a handwritten note. You're predictable. That's why you're alive. Use these. Disappear. Don't come back. No signature. Ava stared at the note, mind racing. Someone had anticipated her move. Someone knew she'd run. Someone had prepared an escape route. But who? She picked up the sat phone and powered it on. One contact saved in the directory. No name, just a number. She dialed it. It rang 3 times. Then a voice. Female, calm, measured. Morales. Who is this? Someone who's been watching you for a long time. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now. Ava's grip tightened on the phone. What do you want? I want you to survive. Because if you die, a lot of other people die too. I don't follow. You will. Check the bag again. Bottom compartment. Ava knelt and felt along the bottom of the duffel. Her fingers found a hidden zipper. She pulled it open and froze. Inside was a photograph. Old, faded, creased from being carried too long. It showed a group of soldiers, 12 of them, standing in front of a helicopter in some desert hellhole. Ava was in the center, younger, harder, a rifle slung across her chest. But it wasn't her face that made her stomach drop. It was the man standing next to her, the one with his arm around her shoulders, grinning like they'd just survived the impossible. His name was etched into her memory like scar tissue. Lieutenant Marcus Cade. Her team leader. Her mentor. The man who died 3 years ago in the ambush that destroyed her unit. Except in the photograph, someone had circled his face in red ink, and written beneath it, in block letters, still alive. Ava's hand shook. The voice on the phone spoke again, quiet and deliberate. You were told he died. You were told the entire team was lost. You were told to move on. But someone lied to you, Morales. And now they're coming to make sure you never find out the truth. Where is he? That's what you're going to find out. How? By doing what you do best. Survive, dig, don't stop until you know who buried you both. And then? Then you make them pay. The line went dead. Ava stood in the ruins of the lighthouse, the photograph clutched in her hand, the weight of 3 years crashing down on her like a wave. Cade was alive. Her team wasn't dead. Someone had lied. Someone had buried the truth. Someone had let her believe she was the only survivor. And now someone was trying to kill her to keep that secret. The storm she'd been running from wasn't behind her. It was inside her, and it was about to break. Ava left the lighthouse before dawn, the photograph sealed in a waterproof pouch against her chest, the sat phone tucked into her jacket. The boat carried her back toward the mainland through fog so thick she navigated by instinct and the faint glow of distant harbor lights. Her mind churned through scenarios, each one darker than the last. Cade was alive. That single fact detonated everything she thought she knew. The ambush 3 years ago, the one that killed 11 operators and left her bleeding out in the sand, hadn't been a tactical failure. It had been a setup, and someone had spent 3 years making sure she never asked the right questions. She beached the boat in a secluded cove north of Crescent Bay and hiked inland through scrub pine and broken fence lines until she hit a service road. A trucker heading south picked her up without asking questions, dropped her at a rest stop 20 miles out, and she disappeared into the bathroom to change. The credentials from the duffel gave her a new name, Claire Donovan, freelance journalist, and a backstory clean enough to pass casual scrutiny. She bought a burner phone at a gas station, activated it with cash, and made one call. The line clicked. A voice answered, male, young, cautious. Yeah? It's Morales. Silence, then quieter. Holy hell, we heard you were dead. Who's we? Everyone. Reyes put out word last night that you'd been compromised. Said contractors got you at Pier 9. Reyes is wrong, or lying. Where is he now? Hospital, St. Catherine's in Millbrook. He took 3 rounds, stable but critical. Ava's jaw tightened. Who shot him? Unknown. Scene was sanitized by the time backup arrived. No shells, no witnesses, no surveillance. Professional. Yeah, same crew that's been hunting you, probably. You have names? Nothing solid. But there's chatter. Black budget outfit called Obsidian Solutions. They specialize in cleanup jobs, loose ends, whistleblowers, people who know too much. Who hired them? That's the question everyone's asking. Word is it came from inside the Department of Defense, but the paper trail's been scrubbed. Whoever ordered it has serious reach. Ava stared at the cracked asphalt of the parking lot. I need access to classified servers, personnel files, operational records from 3 years ago. You're asking me to commit treason. I'm asking you to help me find out who killed my team. The voice hesitated. Your team's been dead for 3 years. No, they haven't. Another pause, longer this time. What are you talking about? Cade's alive. Someone faked his death. I need to know who and why. Morales, if Cade's alive and someone buried that intel, you're not just dealing with contractors. You're dealing with a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top. Then I go to the top. You'll never make it. Watch me. She hung up and crushed the phone under her boot. Then she walked to the edge of the rest stop and stared at the highway stretching into the distance. Somewhere out there, Cade was alive. Somewhere out there, someone had orchestrated the ambush, faked the records, and built a wall of lies high enough to bury the truth for 3 years. And now that someone was trying to kill her to keep it buried. She hitched another ride, this time with a retired school teacher heading to Millbrook. The woman talked the entire way. Grandchildren, recipes, the state of the world, and Ava nodded in all the right places without hearing a word. Her mind was locked on the next move, the next angle, the next threat. St. Catherine's Hospital was a sprawling complex on the west side of Millbrook, all glass and steel and the illusion of safety. Ava walked in through the main entrance wearing a visitor's badge she'd lifted from a distracted family in the lobby. Security was tight but predictable. Metal detectors, cameras, guards who watched screens instead of people. She took the stairs to the 4th floor, avoiding elevators and their enclosed spaces. Reyes was in room 412, guarded by 2 plainclothes operators she recognized from the tactical team at the bar. They clocked her immediately. One of them stepped forward, the woman with the buzz cut. You shouldn't be here. I need to see him. Not happening. He called me. He put me in the crosshairs. I get 5 minutes. He's sedated. He can't talk. Then I'll talk and he'll listen. The woman didn't move. Orders are no visitors, especially not you. Who gave those orders? Someone higher up the chain than you want to know about. Ava stepped closer, voice dropping to a register that made the temperature drop. I don't care about your chain of command. I care about the man in that room who took 3 bullets buying me time to run. So you're going to step aside or I'm going to make you step aside. Your choice. The woman's hand drifted toward her sidearm. The other operator, Latino, coiled energy, shifted his weight. ready to move. The hallway went still. Then a voice from inside the room, weak but unmistakable. "Let her in." The woman hesitated, then stepped aside. Ava walked past her into the room and closed the door behind her. Reyes looked worse than she'd expected. Pale, tubes running from his arms, monitors beeping a steady rhythm. But his eyes were sharp, tracking her every move. "You're supposed to be dead," he said. "So are you." "Fair point." She pulled a chair close to the bed. "Who shot you?" "Professionals. 3-man team. I got one. The other 2 disappeared." "Did you ID them?" "No faces, but their tactics were textbook Obsidian solutions. I heard the name, black budget contractors. Worse than that, they're ghosts. No official records, no oversight, no accountability. They operate in the spaces where the law doesn't reach." "Who hired them?" Reyes closed his eyes. "That's the part I can't figure out. The requisition came through DoD channels, but the authorization signature was forged. Someone with access to high-level systems manufactured the order." "Someone inside?" "Has to be. But it's not just one person. This kind of operation requires coordination, intel, logistics, finance. We're looking at a network." Ava leaned forward. "Cade's alive." Reyes opened his eyes. "What?" "I have proof. A photograph. Someone circled his face and told me he didn't die in the ambush." "That's impossible. I saw the after-action report. 11 KIA, 1 survivor. You." "Then the report was falsified." "By who?" "That's what I'm going to find out." Reyes tried to sit up, grimaced, and fell back. "Morales, listen to me. If Cade's alive and someone buried that information, they did it for a reason. You start digging, they'll come after you harder than they already are. Let them. You're one person. I've been one person before. This is different. You're not fighting insurgents in a desert. You're fighting people who control the narrative, the resources, the law itself." "Then I'll fight smarter." "You'll die." "Maybe, but I'll take them with me." Reyes stared at her, something between admiration and despair in his eyes. "You always were the most stubborn operator I ever commanded. You taught me well. I taught you survival, not suicide." She stood. "There's a difference?" Before he could answer, the door burst open. The buzz-cut woman stepped in, weapon drawn. "We've got movement. 3 vehicles, unmarked, surrounding the building. Same signatures as Pier 9. Reyes swore under his breath. "They tracked her here." "Or they tracked you," Ava said. "Either way, we're boxed in." The woman spoke into her radio. "All units, perimeter breach. Hostiles inbound. Rules of engagement. Defensive only. Protect the asset." "Which asset?" Ava asked. "Both of you." Ava pulled the Glock from her waistband and checked the magazine. Still 15 rounds. Not enough for a prolonged fight, but enough to make an exit. "Where's the closest stairwell?" "South corridor, but they'll have it covered." "Then we go through them." "You're not tactical anymore. You're a nurse." Ava met her eyes. "I was a medic. There's a difference." She moved toward the door. The Latino operator blocked her path. "You leave this room, you're on your own." "I've been on my own since the moment I walked out of that desert." "Then keep walking. Because if you stay, you'll get everyone in this hospital killed." Ava's hand tightened on the Glock. "How many civilians on this floor?" 42 patients, 15 staff. "Then evacuate them. Now." "We don't have time." "Make time. I'll buy you 5 minutes." The woman's expression shifted. Calculation, respect, fear. "You can't hold them off alone." "I don't need to hold them off. I just need to make them think twice." She walked out before anyone could stop her. The hallway was empty, sterile, the fluorescent lights humming overhead. She moved south toward the stairwell, every sense dialed to maximum. Her prosthetic leg clicked faintly with each step, a metronome counting down. The stairwell door was locked. She shot the handle off, 1 round, suppressed by the enclosed space, and kicked it open. Below, voices echoed, boots on concrete. At least 3, maybe more. She descended 2 flights, moving fast and quiet, then stopped at the landing and waited. The voices grew louder. Then a figure rounded the corner, tactical vest, submachine gun, no insignia. Ava put 2 rounds center mass before he could raise his weapon. He dropped without a sound. She moved past him, cleared the next flight, and found two more operators climbing toward her. They saw her. She saw them. Everyone moved at once. Gunfire erupted in the confined space, muzzle flashes strobing the walls. Ava dove behind a concrete support, rounds chipping stone inches from her head. She leaned out, fired 3 times, and one of the operators went down. The other retreated, shouting into his radio. Ava didn't wait. She charged down the stairs, leg hammering against the steps, pain shooting through her stump. The operator turned at the last second, tried to bring his weapon up, and she was on him. Close quarters, brutal, efficient. She stripped the gun from his hands, slammed his head into the railing, and left him bleeding on the landing. She took his radio, his spare magazines, and his submachine gun. Then she kept moving. The ground floor was chaos. Alarms blaring, staff evacuating, patients being wheeled toward exits. Security guards stood at the doors, radios crackling, unsure whether to lock down or let people out. Ava slipped past them and exited through a side door into the parking garage. 3 black SUVs idled near the entrance, engines running, doors open. Operators were moving toward the building in coordinated teams, 6 that she could see, probably more she couldn't. She raised the submachine gun and fired a controlled burst at the nearest SUV. The windshield shattered, the engine block sparked, and the vehicle died. The operators scattered, seeking cover, shouting coordinates. Ava used the confusion to sprint across the garage, weaving between parked cars. Rounds punched into metal and concrete around her, but she kept moving, kept firing, kept them pinned. She reached the far exit, kicked open the emergency door, and stumbled into daylight. Her legs screamed in protest, the stump rubbing raw against the prosthetic socket. She ignored it. Pain was just information. A car screeched to a stop beside her. A sedan, civilian plates, driver's window down. Behind the wheel sat a man in his 60s, silver hair, sharp eyes, wearing a suit that cost more than her yearly salary. "Get in," he said. Ava leveled the submachine gun at his face. "Who are you?" "Someone who wants you alive long enough to hear the truth. Now get in before they regroup." She hesitated. Behind her, the operators were closing in, weapons raised, shouting for her to drop the gun. Ahead, the man in the sedan waited, expression calm, hands visible on the wheel. She made a choice. She climbed in. The car peeled out, tires smoking, and the hospital fell away behind them. The man drove like he'd done this before, fast, precise, using traffic as cover, taking turns without hesitation. Ava kept the gun trained on him the entire time. "Who are you?" she asked again. "My name is Victor Langford. I'm the Deputy Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, and I'm the reason you're still alive." "That's not an explanation. It's the beginning of one." "Then start talking." Langford took a sharp left, merged onto a highway, and accelerated. 3 years ago, your team was sent into hostile territory on a mission that didn't exist. The objective was to retrieve intelligence on a rogue weapons program. You were told it was sanctioned. It wasn't. Ava's grip tightened on the gun. "Keep going." The program was being run by a black site operation within DoD, off the books, no oversight, funded through shell accounts. When your team got close to exposing it, someone ordered a terminal solution. The ambush wasn't an accident, it was an execution. Who ordered it? A man named General Crawford Hayes. He's been running black operations for 15 years. The weapons program you stumbled onto was his crown jewel, a next-generation bioweapon designed to be untraceable. If it had gone public, it would have ended his career and exposed a network of corruption that reaches into the highest levels of government. So he killed my team to cover it up. He tried, but Cade survived. Hayes couldn't risk leaving him alive, so he faked the death records and buried Cade in a classified facility. No trial, no record, no way out. Where? A black site in the Montana Rockies. Facility designation, Blackwood Station. It doesn't officially exist. Ava's heart hammered. Why are you telling me this? Because Hayes is planning to shut down Blackwood Station, permanently. Everyone inside dies, all evidence destroyed. Cade has 72 hours, maybe less. Then why not send a team? I can't. Hayes has too many people in key positions. Any official action gets flagged and shut down before it starts. But you're off the grid. You're expendable. And you have nothing to lose. Except my life. which Hayes is already trying to take. Ava stared at him. You're asking me to break into a black site, extract a prisoner, and expose a conspiracy run by a general with unlimited resources, alone. Yes. That's suicide. That's your specialty. She almost laughed. What's in it for you? Hayes has to be stopped. His operation has cost lives, destabilized regions, and corrupted institutions meant to protect this country. I've been building a case against him for 2 years, but I need proof. Cade is that proof. He was there. He saw the weapons program. He can testify. And if I get him out? Then you disappear. New identity, new life, full protection. Hayes goes down, the network collapses, and you get to live. And if I don't? Then Cade dies. Hayes wins. And you spend the rest of your life running from people who will never stop hunting you. Ava looked out the window. The highway stretched ahead, gray and endless. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, but you don't have a choice. He pulled off the highway, drove through a maze of industrial streets, and stopped at an abandoned warehouse. He reached into his jacket, slowly, carefully, and pulled out a folder. Everything you need is in here. Maps, security protocols, personnel rosters. There's also a contact number. Use it when you're ready to move. I'll provide extraction support, but only after Cade is secure. Before that, you're on your own. Ava took the folder. What if this is a trap? Then you'll die. But you were going to die anyway. At least this way you die for something. She stared at him for a long moment, then opened the door and stepped out. Langford rolled down the window. One more thing, he said. Cade doesn't know you're alive. When you find him, he's going to think you're a ghost. Be ready for that. Ava didn't respond. She turned and walked into the warehouse. Behind her, the sedan pulled away and disappeared into the gray afternoon. Inside, she opened the folder. Maps, schematics, guard rotations, access codes. Everything she needed to infiltrate a facility designed to be impenetrable. At the bottom of the stack was a photograph, recent, high resolution. It showed a man in an orange jumpsuit sitting in a concrete cell staring at the wall. His face was gaunt, scarred, aged by captivity. But the eyes were the same. Marcus Cade, alive, imprisoned, waiting. Ava closed the folder and walked to the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Somewhere in the Montana Rockies, a man she'd thought was dead for 3 years was counting down his final hours. Somewhere in Washington, a general was ordering his execution. Somewhere in the dark, contractors were hunting her. She had 72 hours, no backup, no support, just a prosthetic leg, a stolen gun, and a promise she'd made 3 years ago in the sand while her team bled out around her. She'd promised she'd never leave anyone behind again. Time to keep that promise. She picked up the sat phone, dialed the contact number, and waited. It rang once. A voice answered, clipped, professional. Code. Nightingale. Confirmed. What do you need? Transport to Montana, weapons, field medical kit, and someone who can fly a helicopter under radar. Timeline? 12 hours. That's tight. It's all I've got. A pause. Then, rendezvous coordinates incoming. Don't be late. The line went dead. Ava's phone buzzed. GPS coordinates. Northern Idaho. Airstrip designation classified. She memorized them, deleted the message, and walked out into the fading light. 72 hours until Cade died. 12 hours until she moved. Zero margin for error. The storm wasn't coming. It was already here. And Ava Morales was about to walk straight into its heart. The airstrip sat in a valley carved between jagged peaks, a strip of cracked asphalt barely wide enough for the twin-engine cargo plane that waited in the dark. Ava arrived 30 minutes early, hitching the last leg with a long-haul trucker who didn't ask questions and didn't look at her twice. She paid him double what the ride was worth and watched his taillights disappear before walking onto the tarmac. A figure emerged from the plane's cargo hold. Tall, female, late 20s, moving with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. She wore black fatigues, no insignia, and carried a rifle slung across her back like it was part of her skeleton. Nightingale? She asked. That's me. I'm Rook. Your pilot's inside. Cargo's loaded. We're wheels up in 10. Ava followed her up the ramp into the hold. Crates lined the walls, strapped down with military precision. Rook kicked one open. Weapons, ammunition, tactical gear. Another held medical supplies, field surgical kits, enough to run a trauma unit in a war zone. Langford's got deep pockets, Ava said. Langford's got a vendetta. That's better than money. A voice called from the cockpit. We waiting for an engraved invitation, or are we flying tonight? Ava moved forward. The pilot was older, 60s maybe, gray beard, aviator sunglasses even in the dark. He didn't turn around, just kept running pre-flight checks like they had all the time in the world. You ex-military? Ava asked. Was. Then I got smart. How smart? Smart enough to know when a job's suicidal and still take it anyway. Rook slammed the cargo door shut. We're clear. Go. The engines roared to life and the plane lurched forward, gaining speed, the valley walls closing in on both sides. They lifted off with meters to spare, climbing hard into the black sky. Ava strapped into a jump seat and closed her eyes, letting the vibration of the engines drown out everything except the plan she'd been building since Langford drove away. Blackwood Station was a fortress. 24 guards minimum, rotating shifts, biometric security, no windows, one way in and one way out. The facility was buried under a mountain, accessible only by a single-lane road that switchbacked through mined terrain. Surveillance covered every angle. Snipers held the high ground. It was designed to be impenetrable, which meant it had to have a weakness. Ava opened the folder again, studying the schematics. Every system had a flaw. Redundancy that created gaps, automation that relied on predictability, human error that compounded over time. She just had to find it before the clock ran out. 3 hours into the flight, Rook sat down across from her. You know this is a one-way ticket, right? Nothing's one way if you plan the exit before you go in. Yeah? What's your exit? Still working on it. Rook smiled, grim, knowing. You're crazier than Langford said. He talk about me? He said you were the best combat medic he'd ever seen. Also said you had a death wish. He's half right. Which half? Ava didn't answer. She went back to the schematics, tracing the ventilation system, the power grid, the emergency protocols. Every facility had a panic button, something that triggered evacuation, lockdown, total system failure. If she could trip it at the right moment, she'd have a window. Small, deadly. But there. The plane descended through cloud cover as dawn broke over the Rockies. Snow-covered peaks stretched in every direction, vast and indifferent. The pilot banked hard, dropped below radar, and set them down on a frozen lake bed 30 miles from the target. This is as close as I go, he said. You're on your own from here. Ava grabbed the gear Rook had prepped. Tactical vest, suppressed rifle, sidearm, medical kit, climbing harness, enough explosives to level a building. She strapped it all on, feeling the weight settle into familiar grooves. Rook handed her a radio. Encrypted channel. Emergency only. You call, I answer. But once you're inside, you're dark. No comms until extraction. Understood. One more thing. Rook pulled a small black case from her pocket. Biometric override. It'll get you through one locked door. Use it smart. Ava took it. Langford really does have deep pockets. Langford wants Hayes dead. That makes you his best weapon. Don't waste it. Ava jumped down onto the ice and started walking. Behind her, the plane's engine spun up, and it lifted off, banking south, disappearing into the gray morning. She was alone. The hike took 6 hours. The terrain was brutal. Steep grades, loose scree, altitude that made every breath a fight. Her prosthetic leg held, but barely, the socket chafing her stump raw. She pushed through the pain, using it to stay sharp, stay focused. By late afternoon, she reached the ridgeline overlooking Blackwood Station. The facility was exactly as the schematic showed, a concrete bunker built into the mountainside, camouflaged by rock and snow, invisible unless you knew where to look. A single road snaked down from the north, heavily fortified, mined. 2 guard towers flanked the entrance, snipers visible on both. Ava set up a hide 200 meters out and glassed the compound through a scope. She counted personnel, 18 visible, 6 more likely inside. Shift change at 6 p.m. That was her window. She waited. The cold seeped into her bones. Her legs screamed. Her hands shook. She ignored all of it. Waiting was just another skill. She'd learned it in worse places than this. At 5:45 p.m., the first guard rotation began. 6 men exited the facility, tired, sloppy, talking instead of watching. Ava moved. She descended the ridge using the dead ground, staying low, using shadows and terrain to mask her approach. At the perimeter fence, she cut a hole with bolt cutters and slipped through. No alarms, no response. Either the system was old or someone had already disabled it. She reached the ventilation shaft on the east side, exactly where the schematics said it would be. She pried off the grate, dropped inside, and descended into darkness. The shaft was narrow, claustrophobic, thick with dust and the smell of recycled air. She crawled through it for 20 minutes, following the blueprints in her head, until she reached the junction that fed into the main detention block. She kicked out the vent cover and dropped into an empty corridor. The lights were dim, the walls concrete, the air sterile. She moved fast, rifle up, clearing corners, checking angles. The cells were on the lower level. She took the stairs, avoiding the elevator and its surveillance. At the bottom, she found a checkpoint. 2 guards, bored, playing cards. She put them down with suppressed shots, dragged them into a storage closet, and kept moving. Cade's cell was at the end of the hall. Number 17. No window. Biometric lock. She pulled out the override, pressed it to the scanner, and the door clicked open. Inside, a man sat on a concrete bunk staring at the wall. He didn't turn when she entered, didn't move, didn't speak. Ava stepped closer. Cade. He turned slowly, and for a moment she saw the ghost of the man she'd known. Sharp eyes, strong jaw, the kind of presence that made soldiers follow him into hell. But 3 years had hollowed him out. His face was gaunt, scarred, his hair gray at the temples. He looked at her like she was something his mind had invented to survive the isolation. "You're not real," he said quietly. "I'm real." "No. You died. I watched you die. You watched me get shot. I didn't die." He shook his head, retreating into himself. "This is another test. They do this. They show me things that aren't there." Ava knelt in front of him, close enough that he couldn't look away. "It's me, Marcus. Ava Morales, combat medic. Serial number 847329014. I pulled you out of Fallujah when you took shrapnel to the chest. You told me your daughter's name was Emily and you'd never seen her because you deployed 2 days after she was born. That real enough for you?" His eyes focused, sharpened, something breaking through the fog. "Ava?" "Yeah." "How? Later. We're leaving. Now." She pulled him to his feet. He was weak, malnourished, but he could walk. She handed him a sidearm from her vest. "You remember how to use this?" "I remember." They moved back down the corridor, past the checkpoint, up the stairs. Ava's radio crackled. Rook's voice, sharp and urgent. "Nightingale, we've got movement. 3 vehicles inbound, heavy escort. ETA 10 minutes. Ava swore under her breath. "Copy. Proceeding to extraction." She turned to Cade. "Can you run?" "I can try." "That's not good enough." "Then leave me." "Not happening." They made it to the main level before the alarms started. Blaring klaxons, red lights flashing, automated lockdown protocols engaging. Steel doors slammed shut throughout the facility, trapping them between sections. Ava pulled the explosives from her vest. "We're going through the wall." "That's insane." "You got a better idea?" She planted the charges on a structural weak point she'd identified from the schematics, set the timer for 30 seconds, and dragged Cade behind cover. The explosion ripped through the concrete, blowing a hole large enough to crawl through. They stumbled into the next section, a command center, monitors everywhere, personnel scrambling. Ava raised her rifle and fired controlled bursts, dropping 3 operators before they could return fire. Cade engaged with the sidearm, rusty but effective, covering the exits. More guards poured in. Ava threw a flashbang, used the chaos to push forward, clearing rooms with brutal efficiency. Cade stayed on her 6, moving like muscle memory was overriding years of captivity. They reached the vehicle bay, rows of armored transports, fuel depot, exit ramp leading to the surface. Ava hotwired the nearest truck. Cade climbed in, and she floored it. The truck smashed through the bay doors and roared up the ramp into daylight. Behind them, the facility erupted. More explosions, secondary charges she'd planted in the ventilation shaft detonating, sending plumes of smoke and debris into the sky. Gunfire chased them up the access road. Rounds punched into the truck's armor, spiderwebbing the windshield. Ava weaved between obstacles, using the terrain, pushing the engine past Redline. They hit the main gate doing 60. The truck blasted through it, sending twisted metal flying. The road opened up ahead, clear, empty, freedom. Then the helicopter appeared. It came in low and fast from the north, a Blackhawk with side-mounted guns. The pilot's voice crackled over a loudspeaker. "Stop the vehicle. This is your only warning." Ava didn't stop. She accelerated. The helicopter opened fire. Rounds tore into the road, kicking up asphalt and snow. Ava swerved hard, nearly losing control, the truck skidding sideways before she corrected. Cade leaned out the window, fired at the helicopter with the sidearm. Useless, but it bought seconds. The helicopter banked, came around for another pass. Ava grabbed the radio. "Rook, I need air support. Now." "Negative. We've got no assets in range." "Then I'm making my own." She slammed the brakes, threw the truck into a controlled skid, and stopped directly beneath the helicopter as it descended for the kill shot. She grabbed the last explosive from her vest, armed it, and threw it straight up. The charge detonated midair, too close to the helicopter's tail rotor. The blast shredded the mechanics, sent the aircraft spinning, and it corkscrewed into the mountainside with a roar that shook the valley. Ava didn't wait to watch it burn. She hit the gas and drove. They abandoned the truck 10 miles out, hiked through frozen wilderness until they reached the rendezvous coordinates. The cargo plane was waiting, engines running, Rook standing at the ramp. "You're late," she said. "We had complications." They climbed aboard. The plane lifted off immediately, climbing hard, putting distance between them and the smoking ruin of Blackwood Station. Ava collapsed into a seat, exhausted, bleeding from a dozen minor wounds she hadn't felt until now. Cade sat across from her, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. "They'll come after us," he said quietly. "Let them." "You don't understand. Hayes has reach. He'll burn the world to keep this quiet." "Not if we burn him first." Cade looked at her. "How?" "We go public, everything. The black site, the weapons program, the cover-up. We give it to someone who can't be silenced." "Who?" "The press, Congress, everyone. They'll deny it. They'll bury us." "Not if we have proof." She pulled out the sat phone and dialed Langford's number. He answered on the first ring. "Is he alive?" "He's alive." "Then we move. Now. I've got a congressional hearing scheduled in 48 hours. Closed session, Intelligence Committee. Cade testifies. I provide the documents. Hayes goes down." "What about protection?" "Already arranged. Safe house in Virginia. Secure transport. Armed detail. You'll be untouchable until the hearing." "And after?" "After Hayes is finished, his network collapses. You disappear." Ava looked at Cade. He nodded slowly. "We're in," she said. "Good. I'll send coordinates. Don't deviate. Don't contact anyone. And don't trust anyone who isn't on my list." The line went dead. The plane flew east through the night, crossing state lines, leaving the mountains behind. Ava cleaned and dressed Cade's wounds, checked his vitals, made sure he could survive long enough to testify. He'd lost weight, muscle tone, years of his life, but his mind was intact. That was all that mattered. "Why'd you come for me?" he asked while she worked. "Because I left you once. I'm not doing it again." "You didn't leave me. You were bleeding out." "I still left." He was quiet for a moment. "They told me you were dead. They showed me reports, photos, everything. I believed them. That was the point. Why? Why fake my death and bury me?" "Because you knew too much. The weapons program, the black sites, the people involved. You were the smoking gun. As long as you were alive, the truth could come out. So they made you disappear." "And you?" "I was supposed to die in the ambush. When I didn't, they let me think I was the only survivor. Figured I'd stay quiet, stay broken. They were wrong." Cade smiled, faint, broken. "Yeah, they were." The plane landed at a private airstrip outside Richmond at dawn. 2 black SUVs waited on the tarmac, engines running. Langford stepped out of the lead vehicle, flanked by armed personnel. "Welcome back," he said. Ava and Cade climbed down. Langford's eyes swept over them, assessing, calculating. You look like hell. We feel worse, Ava said. Good. That means you're alive. Let's keep it that way. They drove to a safe house deep in the Virginia countryside, a converted farmhouse, isolated, fortified, surrounded by agents who moved with the precision of people who knew what was at stake. Langford set them up in separate rooms, brought in medical staff, debriefed them individually. When it was Ava's turn, Langford sat across from her in a sparse office, recording device on the table between them. Tell me everything, he said. She did. The ambush, the survival, the 3 years in hiding, the bar, the contractors, Reyes, the lighthouse, the photo. Every piece of the puzzle laid bare. When she finished, Langford leaned back. Hayes is going to fight this. Hard. He'll deny everything, destroy evidence, discredit witnesses. We need to be airtight. We have Cade. Cade's been in prison for 3 years. Defense will argue he's unstable, unreliable. We need corroboration. What kind? Physical evidence. Documents. Something Hayes can't explain away. Ava thought for a moment. The weapons program. Where is it now? Still operational, different location. But the facility's locked down tighter than Blackwood. Can you get me in? Langford stared at her. You just broke into one black site and barely made it out alive. You want to do it again? I want to finish this. That's not your job. Then whose job is it? Mine. You've been building a case for 2 years. How's that working out? Langford's jaw tightened. You're a civilian now. You don't have authority, clearance, or legal protection. You go after that facility, you're on your own. I've been on my own since this started. And you've been lucky. Luck runs out. Then I'll make new luck. Langford stood, walked to the window, stared at the fields beyond. If I give you what you need, you'll get yourself killed. If I don't, Hayes walks. Either way, I lose. No. Either way, you choose whether the truth matters more than the cost. He turned. You really believe that? I used to. Then I spent 3 years hiding. Now I'm done hiding. Langford was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled a flash drive from his pocket and set it on the table. Facility location, security protocols. Everything I've got. Use it. Don't get caught. And if you do, I never gave you this. Ava took the drive. What about Cade? He stays here, testifies in 48 hours. You're not taking him back into the field. Agreed. And Ava, when this is over, you disappear. New name, new life, no looking back. That's the deal. Fine. She walked out before he could change his mind. 24 hours later, Ava stood outside a nondescript industrial complex in rural West Virginia, watching guards patrol the perimeter through night vision optics. The weapons facility was smaller than Blackwood, less fortified, but just as deadly. She'd come alone. No backup, no extraction, just the gear she could carry and a plan held together by desperation and rage. The infiltration took 3 hours, cutting fences, bypassing sensors, taking out guards with silent precision. She reached the main lab at midnight, used the biometric override to unlock the door, and stepped inside. Rows of workstations, refrigerated storage units, prototype weapons in sealed containers. And in the center, a server bank, every piece of data on the program, waiting to be copied. She plugged in the flash drive, initiated the transfer, and waited. The progress bar crawled forward, 30 seconds, 60, 90. Then the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing the lab in red. Alarms screamed. Steel doors slammed shut, trapping her inside. A voice echoed through the intercom, cold, authoritative, familiar. Ms. Morales? I've been expecting you. General Crawford Hayes. Ava's hand went to her sidearm. Where are you? Watching, waiting, wondering how long it would take you to walk into my trap. The server screen flickered. The transfer stopped at 97%. You really thought you could expose me, Hayes continued. You're a ghost, Morales. No one believes ghosts, but I believe in eliminating problems. And you're a problem I should have solved 3 years ago. The lab doors hissed open. 6 operators walked in, weapons raised, moving with cold efficiency. Ava raised her hand slowly. You're done, Hayes. Cade's alive. He's testifying. Langford has the documents. It's over. Cade won't make it to the hearing. Langford won't live to present his evidence. And you'll disappear. Again, permanently this time. The operators closed in. Ava calculated distances, angles, probabilities. 6 against 1. No cover, no exit. Then the server beeped. Transfer complete. She smiled. What's so funny? Hayes demanded. You just confessed. On camera. She pointed to the security feed monitor behind the operators. Its red recording light blinked steadily. Hayes realized too late. Shut it down. Now. But Ava had already sent the file. Not just to Langford, but to every major news outlet, every congressional office, every intelligence oversight committee. The moment she'd plugged in the drive, it had started broadcasting. The operators hesitated. One of them lowered his weapon. Sir, if this is being recorded, I said shut it down. Ava moved. She dropped, rolled, came up firing. 2 operators went down before the others could react. She used their bodies as cover, fired again, dropped a third. The remaining 3 scattered. She ran for the emergency exit, kicked it open, and sprinted into the night as gunfire erupted behind her. She didn't stop running until she reached the extraction point, a dirt road 3 miles out where Rook waited with the cargo plane. You get it? Rook shouted over the engines. I got it! They lifted off as headlights converged on the facility. By the time Hayes's men realized what had happened, the evidence was already viral. 48 hours later, Marcus Cade sat before a closed congressional committee and testified for 6 hours. The documents Langford provided corroborated every word. The video of Hayes's confession played on loop across every news network. By the end of the week, General Crawford Hayes was arrested on charges of conspiracy, murder, treason, and crimes against humanity. His network collapsed, officers, contractors, bureaucrats, all falling like dominoes. Ava watched it all from a safe house in Montana, a new name in her pocket, a new life waiting. Langford called one last time. It's done. Hayes is finished. You're free. Am I? As free as anyone gets in this world. That's not very free. No, but it's what we have. She hung up and walked outside. The mountains stretched endlessly, cold and clean and indifferent. Somewhere out there, Cade was rebuilding his life. Somewhere, Reyes was recovering. Somewhere, the truth was finally out. But for Ava Morales, the woman with 66 marks on her back, the woman who'd been buried and refused to stay dead, freedom felt like just another word for starting over. She pulled the photograph from her pocket, the one showing her team, alive and whole, before everything fell apart. She lit a match, held it to the corner, and watched it burn. Then she turned and walked into the mountains, leaving the ashes behind. But as she disappeared into the trees, her sat phone buzzed one last time. A message. No sender. Just 4 words. This isn't over yet. Ava stared at the screen, the 4 words burning into her retinas like a brand. She didn't delete the message. She didn't throw the phone. She just stood there in the Montana wilderness, the wind cutting through the trees, and felt the weight of unfinished business settle back onto her shoulders. She dialed Langford's number. He answered on the second ring. I got a message, she said. What kind of message? The kind that means Hayes wasn't working alone. Langford was quiet for 3 seconds. Where are you? Montana. Safe house you set up. Stay there. Don't move. I'm sending a team. No teams, just answers. Who else was involved? I don't know yet. You're lying. I'm being cautious. Cautious got my team killed. I want names. Langford exhaled. There's a deputy secretary, name's Colin Vance. He signed off on the black site budgets, authorized the weapons contracts, covered Hayes's tracks for years. When Hayes got arrested, Vance went underground. We've been looking for him, but he's connected. Foreign intelligence, private military, people who don't leave trails. And you think he sent the message? I think he's the only one left with enough resources to threaten you. Then I'm going after him. That's suicide. Vance has entire networks protecting him. You won't get close. I got close to Hayes. Hayes was arrogant. Vance is smart. There's a difference. Ava turned and walked back toward the safe house. Send me everything you have on him. Location, assets, security. I'll handle the rest. Morales, listen to me. She hung up. Inside the safe house, she spread Langford's files across the table. Surveillance photos, financial records, intercepted communications. Vance's face stared back at her from a dozen angles. Speaking at defense conferences, shaking hands with senators, posing for official portraits. He looked like every other bureaucrat who'd ever hidden behind a suit and a smile. But the data told a different story. Shell companies in the Caymans, arms deals with rogue states, payments to Obsidian Solutions totaling 8 figures. Vance wasn't just complicit, he was the architect. Hayes had been the muscle, Vance had been the brain. And now, with Hayes in custody, Vance was exposed, which made him desperate. And desperate men with unlimited resources were the most dangerous kind. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Coordinates, 24 hours. Come alone, or Cade dies. Ava's blood went cold. She dialed Langford again. Where's Cade? Safe house in Virginia. Locked down. Why? Check. Now. She heard him shouting orders in the background. Radios crackling, voices overlapping, then silence. He's gone, Langford said, voice tight. Security details dead. No signs of forced entry. They had inside help. How long ago? 30 minutes, maybe less. Then he's still alive. Vance needs leverage. Or he needs to tie up loose ends. He would have killed Cade on sight if that's what he wanted. No, he wants me. Cade's the bait. Then don't take it. I'm not leaving him. You go after Vance, you're walking into a trap with your eyes open. I've done it before. She hung up and looked at the coordinates. Remote location in the Appalachian Mountains. No towns nearby. No infrastructure. Perfect for an ambush. She grabbed her gear, rifle, sidearm, medical kit, everything she'd carried out of Blackwood, and walked out into the night. The drive took 18 hours straight through, no stops. She arrived at the coordinates just after dawn, a clearing in the forest surrounded by dense trees, a single structure in the center. Not a building. A tent. Military surplus, weathered, anonymous. Ava parked a mile out and approached on foot, moving through the underbrush with the silence of someone who'd done this in worse terrain. She glassed the area through her scope. No guards visible, no vehicles, no movement. Too clean, too empty. She circled the perimeter, checking for tripwires, sensors, anything that would give away an ambush. Nothing. Just the tent, the clearing, and the sound of wind through the trees. She approached from the north, rifle up, every nerve screaming that this was wrong. She reached the tent, pulled back the flap, and stepped inside. Cade sat in a folding chair, zip-tied, gagged, bruises on his face, but alive. His eyes went wide when he saw her, shaking his head frantically, trying to warn her. Too late. The tent exploded inward, not literally, but with bodies. 6 operators moving in perfect sync, weapons trained on her from every angle. She froze, calculating odds, distances, outcomes. All of them ended the same way. A man stepped through the entrance, 50s, graying hair, expensive suit that looked ridiculous in the middle of nowhere. Colin Vance. He smiled like they were old friends. Miss Morales, thank you for coming. Ava didn't lower her rifle. Let him go. Of course, as soon as we've had a conversation. We're having it now. Not like this. He gestured to the operators. Lower your weapons. She's not going to shoot me. You sure about that? Completely. Because if you do, your friend dies. And despite everything, I don't think you're willing to make that trade. Ava's finger rested on the trigger. You underestimate me? No. I've studied you for 3 years. I know exactly who you are. A soldier pretending to be a civilian, a killer pretending to be a healer, a woman who thinks she can change the world by exposing men like me. I already exposed you. You exposed Hayes. I'm a footnote, a name in a document no one will read. In 6 months, this will be forgotten. In a year, I'll be back in Washington with a different title and the same power. Not if you're dead, Vance laughed. Then kill me. Go ahead. But understand, the second you do, a dozen contractors will hunt you to the ends of the earth. Cade will disappear. Everyone you've ever helped will become a target. Is that the justice you're fighting for? Ava's grip tightened. What do you want? I want you to walk away. Disappear. Live whatever life Langford promised you. In exchange, I let Cade go. No more threats, no more hunters. Clean slate. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to be smart enough to take the deal. She looked at Cade. His eyes were pleading, desperate, telling her to take the offer, to survive, to let him be the cost. She looked back at Vance. You're lying. The second I walk away, you kill him and come after me anyway. Perhaps, but that's a risk you'll have to take. Ava lowered her rifle slowly. I've got a better idea. Which is? I walk away. You let Cade go. And we both pretend this conversation never happened. That's the same deal. No, because you're going to do it right here, right now, in front of me. Cut him loose, let him walk. Then we're done. Vance studied her. And if I refuse? Then I shoot you. Your men shoot me. Cade bleeds out in this tent, and nobody wins. But at least you don't get to walk away either. The operator shifted, fingers moving toward triggers. Vance raised a hand. Stand down. He walked to Cade, pulled out a knife, and cut the zip ties. Cade stumbled forward, ripping off the gag, gasping for air. Ava grabbed him, pulled him behind her, rifle still trained on Vance. Now leave, Vance said. Both of you, before I change my mind. Ava backed toward the exit, Cade moving with her. They reached the tent flap, and she risked one glance back. Vance stood there, hands in his pockets, smiling like he'd already won. They ran. Ava and Cade crashed through the forest, branches tearing at their clothes, lungs burning, legs screaming. Behind them, shouting, orders, coordinates, the sound of pursuit. They're not letting us go, Cade gasped. I know. Then what's the plan? Still working on it. They reached the car, climbed in, and Ava floored it. The engine roared, tires spitting dirt and gravel as they rocketed down the access road. In the rearview mirror, 2 SUVs appeared, closing fast. Gunfire erupted. Rounds punched into the trunk, shattered the back window. Ava swerved, using the narrow road to her advantage, forcing the pursuers to stay single file. There's a rifle in the back seat, she said. Can you shoot? I can try. Cade grabbed the weapon, leaned out the window, and fired. His aim was shaky, but good enough. One of the SUVs swerved, clipped a tree, and flipped. The second kept coming. The road opened onto a highway. Ava merged into traffic, weaving between civilian vehicles, using them as shields. The SUV followed, reckless, aggressive, drawing attention. Sirens wailed in the distance, state police responding to reports of gunfire. The SUV peeled off, disappearing down a side road before the cops arrived. Ava didn't slow down until they were 3 counties away. She pulled into an abandoned rest stop, killed the engine, and sat there shaking. Cade leaned his head back, breathing hard, eyes closed. That was insane, he said. That was Tuesday. You do this often? More than I'd like. He looked at her. Why didn't you shoot him? Because killing him wouldn't have solved anything. He's part of a system. You cut off one head, another grows back. So what do? We finish it, for real this time. She pulled out the sat phone and dialed Langford. I need a favor. You need a lot more than a favor. Half the eastern seaboard is looking for you after that highway chase. Then give them someone else to look at. Vance is still out there. He's not going to stop until we're dead. I need you to bring him in. On what grounds? We don't have evidence. Yes, you do. Everything Hayes confessed to implicates Vance. Follow the money, the authorizations, the signatures. It's all there. That'll take weeks. Then I'll buy you time. How? By making Vance desperate enough to make a mistake. She hung up before he could argue. Over the next 72 hours, Ava became a ghost. She leaked documents to journalists, contacted whistleblowers, fed information to congressional investigators. Every thread connecting Vance to the conspiracy was pulled, examined, broadcast. His name went from footnote to headline. His shell companies were exposed, his contractors arrested, his network dismantled piece by piece. And through it all, she stayed one step ahead, moving between safe houses, changing identities, never staying in one place long enough to be found. On the 4th day, Vance made his mistake. He tried to flee the country. Private jet, falsified documents, a carefully planned escape route. But Langford had been waiting. Federal agents stormed the airstrip, arrested Vance before he reached the plane, and dragged him back to Washington in handcuffs. The footage played on every news channel. Vance, the architect of a conspiracy that had killed dozens and endangered countless more, finally brought to justice. Ava watched it from a motel room in North Carolina, Cade sitting beside her. Neither of them spoke. They just watched the man who'd orchestrated their suffering get exactly what he deserved. When it was over, Cade turned to her. What now? Now you go home, testify, rebuild your life, see your daughter. What about you? I disappear, like I was supposed to 3 years ago. That's not a life. It's the one I've got. He stood. You saved my life twice. I don't know how to repay that. You don't. You just live it. That's enough. He nodded, walked to the door, then stopped. If you ever need anything, I won't. But if you do, I know where to find you. He left. Ava sat alone in the motel room, staring at the empty screen, feeling the weight of 3 years finally lift. 2 weeks later, she stood outside Jefferson Memorial Hospital in Crescent Bay, the place where this had all started. The bar was gone, shut down after the incident, owners facing charges. The bikers were in jail. The contractors were dead or arrested. The conspiracy was exposed. Everything had changed, except her. She walked through the hospital doors, past security, past the admin desk, straight to the trauma wing. Diane saw her first. Ava? Oh my God, we thought, I'm back. But the news said, the news was wrong. Dr. Hale appeared, looking older and more tired than she remembered. Morales, you're alive. Disappointed? Relieved. We've been drowning without you. Then put me back on the schedule. Just like that? Just like that. Diane stepped forward. Ava, what happened? Where have you been? Nowhere important. I'm here now. That's what matters. She walked to the locker room, pulled on scrubs, and stepped back into the rhythm like she'd never left. Triage, assess, stabilize, save. A young resident approached her during a lull. Nurse Morales, I'm new. I heard stories about you. Don't believe them. They say you saved 3 people during that multi-vehicle pileup last month, that you worked 18 hours straight without a break. I did my job. They say you're the best trauma nurse this hospital's ever had. Ava looked at her, young, eager, untested. You want to be good at this? Yes. Then stop listening to stories and start learning. Every patient is a chance to save a life. Don't waste it. The resident nodded and walked away. Ava went back to work. Months passed. The story faded from the headlines. Hayes was convicted and sentenced to life without parole. Vance followed, charged with conspiracy, treason, multiple counts of murder. The black sites were shut down. The weapons program dismantled. The operators who'd served under Hayes were investigated, prosecuted, or discharged. Reyes recovered. He called once asking if she wanted to come back. Teach, train, pass on what she knew. She declined. She'd spent enough years in that world. Cade rebuilt his life. He sent her a photo, him standing next to his daughter, both of them smiling. No words, just the image. Ava kept it in her locker. Langford offered her a new identity, a fresh start, a chance to disappear for good. She turned him down. She'd been hiding long enough. One evening, 6 months after it all ended, Ava sat alone in her warehouse apartment, staring at the mark on her shoulder in the bathroom mirror. 66. The number that had defined her, haunted her, nearly killed her. She picked up a tattoo pen, something she'd bought weeks ago but hadn't used. Carefully, deliberately, she added one more mark. Not a kill, a save. Then another, and another. She covered the 66 with new ink. Hundreds of small marks, overlapping, intertwining, transforming the tally of death into something else. A garden of lines, a constellation of scars, a reminder that she'd saved more lives than she'd ever taken. When she finished, the dagger was gone. The number was gone. Only the pattern remained, beautiful, chaotic, hers. She put the pen down and looked at herself in the mirror. Not the soldier she'd been, not the ghost she'd become. Just Ava Morales, trauma nurse, survivor, someone who'd walked through hell and chose to come back. Her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus, the young nurse at Jefferson. Rough shift, lost a patient, don't know if I'm cut out for this. She typed back, you are. Come in early tomorrow, I'll show you why. She put the phone down and walked to the window. Crescent Bay stretched out below, lights flickering in the darkness. The ocean beyond vast and unknowable. She'd been dismissed, underestimated, hunted, buried. And she'd risen anyway. Not because she was invincible, not because she was fearless, but because she'd learned the hardest lesson of all. Strength wasn't about never falling. It was about getting back up every single time, no matter how many times the world tried to keep you down. The people who'd mocked her were gone. The people who'd tried to silence her were behind bars. The people who'd thought she was broken had learned the truth the hard way. She wasn't broken. She'd just been waiting for the right moment to fight back. And now, standing in the window of her warehouse with the city spread out before her and a future finally her own, Eva Morales allowed herself something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. Not the naive kind, not the fragile kind, but the kind forged in fire, tested by loss, and proven through survival. She turned away from the window, grabbed her jacket, and walked out into the night. Somewhere out there, someone needed help. Someone needed saving. Someone needed to know that no matter how dark it got, there were still people willing to stand in the gap. And Eva Morales, once dismissed, now legendary, forever unbreakable, was ready to be one of them. Not because she had to, because she chose to, and that made all the difference.